collaboration with the Cyprus Mail. This is the Cyprus News Digest with Rosie Charalambous.
Coming up this week, the UN Special Advisor on Cyprus reports to the Security Council.
These negotiations is the way to overcome a situation which both sides describe as unacceptable. It's a very strong word. It's a word that is uttered by the Greek Cypriot leader and the Turkish Cypriot leader in the joint declaration, that everything in the current situation is unacceptable. And there are a lot of things that is unacceptable in the situation. The good news, as we shared with the Council, is that contrast to all the other conflicts that will be on the table today and in other days at this Council, there is also a broad agreement that this can be solved.
We'll meet Mr. Boogie Woogie.
Boogie Woogie was actually the style which introduced these kind of rolling grooves to popular music. Prior to that, it had been more of an oompa rhythm, like in ragtime or in swing, based on march rhythm. And with Boogie Woogie, there came these kind of groovy beats to it. And it became a real pioneer style for what we have in popular music today. And even in modern music, you find the same bass lines that were used for Boogie Woogie, only just played by different instruments.
And we'll hear about the Cyprus Friendship Programme, bringing young people together across the Cyprus divide.
The most difficult part is to help them make that first move. Once that move is made, then it just opens one door, and then they have other doors that they see opening up in their lives, and other choices that they never thought that they would have before.
The United Nations Secretary-General's Special Advisor for Cyprus, Espen Barth Eide, has been in New York briefing the Security Council about the current situation on the island. Afterwards, he spoke to the press.
While we are still in a stalemate, and while I have no news to share with you that it's going to be over by tomorrow, I feel that there is a genuine will on both sides to look for a way to come out and to return to negotiations, because I believe that both sides are beginning to feel that the current hydrocarbons crisis is mutually hurting for both sides. And experience has it that when both sides knows that they're in a stalemate which neither side benefits from, that's the good moment to look for ways to move out of the crisis. I am actually somewhat more cautiously optimistic than I was when I was last in Cyprus.
Mr. Eide was asked if there was a prospect for an immediate meeting between the two sides, bearing in mind that he had, on his last visit to Cyprus, been somewhat pessimistic about the situation.
But it is correct that when I was in Cyprus, I expressed my increasing concern over the length of the stalemate. You may remember that when in October, when the talks were suspended and when Mr. Anastasiades decided not to take part, I said that if this crisis takes a few weeks or maybe even a few months, it would probably be easy to catch up with lost time. If it would take more time, it would be more concerning, because the situation around Cyprus, as we know, is deteriorating as we speak, and we don't want to see a stalemate that can actually make the neighborhood come too close, or the situation in the neighborhood come too close to Cyprus. Now, it's also true that based on conversations that I had lately, I feel that what I just said, that the will to move out of the crisis is there. That will does not necessarily translate into any immediate change, but we are thinking about how this could be done, and I am preparing myself and my team for speedy and effective negotiations as soon as we can, and when the situation is right. But I'm not suggesting that it's going to happen right away. Now, I share this with the Council, and I feel that I have the full support of the Council in this approach, and that's very important because, again, as I've said before, there are many issues in the world where this body is much less united than the issue of Cyprus. This is something all Cypriots should recognize and welcome, and try to utilize the strong support you have from the international community to move ahead to what I think is the most obvious solution, which is bizonal, bicommunal federation of Cyprus.
Then the question of the United Nations' latest report on Cyprus came up. It's been roundly condemned by the government, and Mr. Eide was asked why there was no mention in it of Turkey's 1974 invasion of the island.
The Security Council of the United Nations has expressed itself many, many times on the issues. Almost since the beginning of the UN, it has expressed itself over what it thinks about Cyprus. And its number one prerogative and its number one desire is to see a reunification of the island through negotiation. And in those negotiations there are two sides. There's the Greek Cypriot side and the Turkish Cypriot side, and these negotiations is the way to overcome a situation which both sides describe as unacceptable. It's a very strong word, but it's a word that is uttered by the Greek Cypriot leader and the Turkish Cypriot leader in the joint declaration, that everything in the current situation is unacceptable. And there are a lot of things that is unacceptable in this situation. The good news, as we shared with the Council, is that contrast to all the other conflicts that will be on the table today and in other days at this Council, there is also a broad agreement that this can be solved together. But you will not solve it blaming each other. I can guarantee you that. I've been around in peace operations and peace mediation before, and there are very few cases where escalation of blames and recrimination solves the problem. So I think it's much, much more important to focus on the fact that there is a will to talk, there is a will to move forward, and that's our emphasis. When it comes to history, and this is a general statement, it depends on where you start. Because you choose one date to start, others take start on another date, and you can go back until the early beginnings and Adam and Eve. I think it's much better to look forward, and there's much more solutions found in the future than in the past.
And finally, the special advisor was quizzed about a statement he made to Turkey's Milliyet newspaper concerning hydrocarbons being on the negotiating table. This is what he replied.
I recognized that Anastasiades made an important adaptation to the Greek Cypriot position, namely that hydrocarbons can be discussed at the table. I think that's good. I think that this is something that we work jointly to build further on. But I think as a general comment to the questions, I would like to say that if the biggest question in the world is who is guilty and who's to blame, I think you will have a long conflict ahead of you. I think if you changed the questions to how can we get out of this, I think it would be a speedier process, but that's not up to me to decide. That's my recommendation. What I want to share with you is I feel that the Security Council is concerned, is interested, and is committed to a solution based on the principles enshrined in the joint declaration.
The UN Secretary-General's Special Advisor for Cyprus, Espen Barth Eide, speaking to the press in New York.
Keep up to date with events in Cyprus and around the world with the Cyprus News Digest.
Music lovers in Cyprus usually associate the Pharos Arts Foundation with classical music, and classical music of a great calibre as well. They do a lot of their concerts in the Shoe Factory in Old Nicosia. It's a perfect venue, very cosy. But this week, it was rocking. Axel Zwingenberger was in town with his Boogie Woogie concert. When I met up with him before the concert, I asked if this was his first visit to Cyprus.
This is actually my first visit to Cyprus, yeah.
And when you take your Boogie Woogie across the world, because you tour everywhere, what sort of people come to your concerts? I mean, there are, I suppose you could say, Boogie Woogyists, aren't there? And you're one of them.
Yeah, they are. There are Boogie Woogie piano enthusiasts. But, generally it appeals to a lot of different groups of people who are interested in jazz, in swing, in blues, of course. Maybe in early rock and roll, in piano playing in general, and so it's drawing from all these different groups. And then there are boogie woogieists, as you said, who are really particularly loving the style. And so this is a mixed audience, and it's always fun because it's a music which has a very direct power to it, you know, there's a lot of drive, and so basically everybody can understand it.
It's very energetic, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, you must be fit to play. How long are your concerts? Because it's a lot of energy.
Yeah, I mean, solo concert normally around 2.5 hours, something like that.
And
Yeah.
how do you keep fit?
Just living.
How did
Nothing special.
How did you get into the boogie woogie scene? What was it, presumably when you were a very young man, that sort of struck you as being, this is the music?
Well, actually, when I started out, there was no boogie woogie scene, actually, because it was considered being almost forgotten, although it's one of the foundations of rock and roll music, with that kind of A to the bar rolling beat. But I came across it by accident because I've listened to some old jazz 78 shellac records, you know, those breakable ones. And among them were 3 boogie woogie records, and I was totally fascinated by that, struck by the energy, by the sound. And I had been playing classical piano, so I knew right away from listening to that it's quite a demanding style, and that it's really piano playing, and it's on the other hand totally different from classical music. So that appealed a lot to me.
It is a style that's based really, I think, we could say, on the blues.
Yes.
And the blues seems to have infiltrated so many other genres of music.
Yeah, it is really the basis of modern popular music. It influenced jazz, of course, then the entire rock and roll was based on blues and styles beyond. And Boogie Woogie was actually the style which introduced these kind of rolling grooves to popular music. Prior to that, it had been more of an rhythm, you know, like in ragtime or in swing, you know, based on march rhythm. And with Boogie Woogie, there came these kind of groovy beats to it. And it became a real pioneer style for what we have in popular music today. And even in modern music, you find the same bass lines that were used for Boogie Woogie, only just played by different instruments. So it's still there.
There's a lot of improvisation in this sort of music as well, isn't there?
Yeah, it is, and it needs a bit of imagination, because it's an abstract music. It sounds familiar, but you have the blues formula, which is a 12-bar structure mostly, and whenever you completed these 12 bars, the game is totally open again. You know, it's not that you have, in most cases, you don't have a set melody on which you improvise or which you change or whatsoever. It's a new thing. You have to really use your imagination to come up with something new, and so it can be demanding, especially if you want to keep interest and
keep it fresh.
Yeah, keep it fresh. And so, I mean, generally, for me, it's I love it very much. You know, it's like talking. You're talking just from scratch in a way, yeah, and you're telling the story on the piano.
Right, I've got your CD here in my hand, The Magic of Boogie Woogie. You're playing with Dave Green and Charlie Watts. That presumably is available online. Where can people get hold of a copy?
Through my website, www.boogiewoogie.net. We have a shop there, and this is one of the more recent productions that I made. I mean, I've about 32 different albums I've made over the last 40 years.
And you must have collaborated with a lot of fantastic musicians.
Yeah, fortunately, I had the chance to meet some of the pioneers of that music style, and this was beginning in the late 70s, with people like Big Joe Turner, for example. He was the role model of a boogie woogie singer, and one of the main influences on rhythm and blues singing later. And he influenced practically everybody, from Bill Haley through Ray Charles, through the Rolling Stones, and whoever was in this music was influenced by Joe. And I was fortunate to collaborate with him, because he had started out as a two-man team with Pete Johnson, who was one of the greatest Boogie Woogie piano players. So I could get my influences from these people and really get a lot of inspiration by them. And at that time I was pretty much aware that I was probably the last one who was able to do that. So I kind of tried to inherit this.
Well, it's fantastic music, and that is Axel Zwingenberger, who has been playing at the Shoe Factory here in Nicosia at the Pharos Arts Foundation. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Get in touch with the Cyprus News Digest by emailing cyprusnewsdigest@gmail.com.
Well, while the Cyprus talks continue to be in stalemate, there are people on the ground here in Cyprus who are still working to try and bring the two sides together. The Cyprus Friendship Programme is now in its 7th year of operation, and in those years it has brought together hundreds of teenagers from both communities, and through those teenagers, their families. They're about to launch the programme for 2015, and one of the founders of the programme is Nikos Anastasiou. Nikos, for those not familiar with it, perhaps we should go back to the very beginning. Can you start off, please, by telling us how this programme came to be in operation? What indeed gave you the idea that by approaching young teenagers you might be able to reach out to other members of the community? Because a lot of those teenagers, I suppose, have never met another young person around their own age from the other community. So some of them presumably are fairly apprehensive.
A combination of events that led to synergies, put it this way, that has also an international dimension. I was involved in citizen peace-building work, especially for young people and their families in Cyprus, for the good part of the last 20 years. But there's been also another similar program for teenagers from Northern Ireland who used to be going to the United States, where the Catholic and Protestant teenagers would be hosted by American families over there. And all the stars were on the right line, as it were, when the Irish-American program reached its conclusion with the completion of the political problem there and the signing of the Good Friday Agreement. And some good people in the U.S. who were organizing such visits said, well, maybe we need to cooperate with another group of peace builders in another country, and that's where Cyprus comes in. So our 20 years of work on the ground in Cyprus joined, as it were, with the 20 years of the friends in the United States. We were working with Northern Irish children from the Protestant and Catholic community. So about 7 years ago, we decided that it makes sense that we work together as two independent and also cooperating groups. So the fundamentals of the program involve all the year-round peace-building work and building contacts between Greek and Turkish Cypriot teenagers and their families in Cyprus. But there is a highlight, as it were, where every year in July, a number of teenagers from Cyprus, from the two communities, visit the United States, where in pairs, and by pair I mean of the same gender, 2 boys, let's say, or 2 girls, are hosted by American families who cover all their expenses while in the U.S. So as I usually describe the effect is roommates for a month and friends for life. And the beauty of the program is that as the teenagers become very close friends, even before they go to the United States, their families also get connected, because obviously a Greek Cypriot parent whose child became best friends with a Turkish Cypriot child of the same age would have a very healthy curiosity. Who is this child and what about their family? But the family on the other side also have similar very fair questions. So the magic of coexistence begins to take over, and there is a momentum and what I call a social multiplier effect.
And it has been hugely successful, hasn't it? Over the years, we said hundreds of teens, but if we multiply the family members of those teenagers, that's an awful lot of people who now perhaps have friends in the other community that they would never have had before. What sort of activities do you do with the youngsters when they first sign on to the programme? Because I imagine some of them are perhaps a little apprehensive.
Well, you're right that because young people grow up totally separate from each other, and there is a little bit of apprehension. But fairly earlier on and quite easily, once they have this opportunity to get to know each other, they find that it's a lot easier than what they thought. And in the context of the various activities that we do, that could range from just playing games to talking more serious, more structured dialogue, but also generally what we call peace-building activities that gives an opportunity also to the wider public to understand that young people can get together and can do good things for everyone. It melts the ice very, very quickly. And then they're just young people busy getting on, helping each other out, making bridges for their families to come together. And before we realize it, we have an amazing collaboration of people. I can give you a very simple example that happened, just the other day. We had a presentation to do at the English school, and we had a parent from the Cyprus Friendship Programme who happened to work there, who helped us out set it up. We had a camper, a student from the Cyprus Friendship Programme, who was dealing with the laptop to show what we wanted to show to our audience. We had two girls who were on stage and spoke about their experience. Two other Cyprus Friendship Programme teenagers who were in the area there taking photos to make a report later on. It was not an issue of whether it was a Greek or a Turkish Cypriot. It's just the team working together to send out a message that, as we say in our experience, people united in a country divided. So it just flows quite nicely and quite naturally.
But it is a difficult thing, isn't it, to get over that initial reticence, I might say, that I suspect some of the kids have, because they have spent most of their lives being brought up to think of the other side as the bad people.
Yes, you're absolutely right. In my experience, also as an educator for 30 years, I've come to the conclusion that young people, no matter what their background might be, if they're exposed to something genuine and something wholesome, it will make them tick. They will see it. They have an instinct for this. And it's just one good thing bringing in another. So I'm not worried so much about this. The most difficult part is to help them make that first move. Once that move is made, then it just opens one door, and then they have other doors that they see opening up in their lives, and other choices that they never thought that they would have before. So it's just keep working, never losing hope, moving on, and we can never lose the hope, actually, because as peace builders, we're in the business of creating it for us and for others. And when we see so many wonderful people, not only in Cyprus, but all over the world, seeing this work, appreciating it, supporting it. I mean, we have Bernice King, the daughter of Martin Luther King, saying this is a good job, move on. We have Desmond Tutu and Jimmy Carter, Nobel Peace Prize winners, who have worked with our teenagers to do a documentary on the missing people in Cyprus. And we have supporters of our work in so many schools all over the island, in both communities, and these numbers are growing in a rather, I would say, quiet way, without a lot of noise. It's not the surface of the ocean. But it is that quiet
way that is laying the groundwork if and when we hope for a solution, Nikos. Can I ask you, 7 years that you've been doing this, if you look back to the very first Cyprus Friendship Group, let's say the graduates of your first group, are they still in touch with their friends from the other side? What are they doing now?
Oh yes, very much so. It's no different from friends from their own community that they were very close in their teenage years. Their roads may go in separate ways because one may go to university in one country, another in another. But I mean, only today I was talking with a very good friend who happens to be the director of a school, whose daughter was involved in the program 3 years ago in the U.S. part, and he arranged for us to do a presentation in the school, which is very nice. See how parents are there to support us in any way they can. And while we were talking, I asked, how the girl's doing, and he said that the Turkish Cypriot friend of his daughter is studying in Turkey, and every time she's back, they can't wait to meet and have a great time together. I mean, I hear stories like this all the time.
Well, it gives great hope, Nikos. Now, I know you've got a website where people can find out the details, and I think, too, that you can give us some phone numbers, because you have presentations ongoing that started this week. So tell us about those and how people can get in touch if they'd like to find out more.
Well, the best way is to give a call either to me or to the Turkish Cypriot lead coordinator in the other community. So I can give these numbers first. My number is 99498531. And for Turkish Cypriot friends, the number is 0542 8564828. And our website is www.cyprusfriendship.org.
Okay, and the events that you've got coming up this week started, I think, at the English school. Just give us a rundown, because you are hoping, as well as the ones already organised in the south, to get some going in the north.
Yes, we have coming up this Friday at 6 o'clock. We're going to be in Alhambra, in the elementary school there. Then this will be followed by this Sunday, the 1st of February. We're going to be in Limassol at 3 o'clock at the Nautical Club by the seashore there. And also we have one in Paphos. That will be on Saturday, the 7th, at 4 o'clock at Annabelle Hotel. But the best thing would be to give us a call, and we can confirm. We also have the Turkish Cypriot community's presentations. Any day now they will be ready to be announced. So if friends get in touch on the phones, we'll be able to give them the details of exactly when and where.
And the numbers, I presume, are limited. Is this a first-come, first-served basis?
We have a selection process where the criteria of selection depend on partly the written application and the interview that everyone goes through. And the interviews of Turkish Cypriot teenage applicants are made by the Greek Cypriot coordinators of the program. And the interviews of the Greek Cypriot applicants is made by the Turkish Cypriot coordinators of the program to maximize the objectivity, as it were, in the selection process. But usually those who may not manage to go through for the America part of the program, there is still the camp that we have in Cyprus in the summer, which is also an amazing experience, and they can also have the opportunity there for 1 week to meet young people from the other community and enjoy having great fun, but also doing lots of meaningful activities at the same time.
It sounds wonderful. I wish you all the best with the series of events coming up to publicise this, and we'll point people in the direction of cyprusfriendship.org. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Nikos Anastasiou, thanks for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Well, that about wraps up this edition of the Cyprus News Digest. Many thanks for your company. Hope you'll join me next week. Till we meet again, take care and God bless. Bye-bye now.